What's going on, Micro Pigs? Tommy Post here with Micro Pig Off-Road Club, a micro four-wheel drive dedicated group. Thanks for joining us. Today is a very specific topic that I'm going to put out there for everybody. It's about winches. So I'm going to prelude this by saying I've got an adequate amount of experience with winches. This little guy is not my first four-wheel drive vehicle or off-road dedicated vehicle, whether it be side-by-sides, Jeeps, trucks, you name it. I got a long history of getting off the pavement. Well, if you go all the way back to Micro Pig number 2, I ended up sticking a winch on the front and a winch on the back of this little rascal, and I chose the 4,500 pound variety. This car is little. I mean, for those that don't know the first gen Kia Sportage, they're small. It's not a big vehicle. It looks big in the pictures like most things, but it's actually pretty small. So a 4,500 pound winch, it's kind of right there. But usually, in my opinion, if you don't do a lot of really stupid off-roading, it only takes just a little tug to get you unstuck. So my first generation of winches was a 4,500 front and back. Now, I did have a cheap Chinese, well, okay, let me back that up. Probably not fair to say because almost everything comes from China these days. But I had the winch in the back really was a poor example of what was supposed to be the same capacity as the front winch. Now, I'm not going to get into singing their praises, but the 4,500 pounder that I had in front was amazing. I mean, it outshined the other one in every single way imaginable. Never failed, never left me stuck. Hell, half the time I didn't even have to put a snatch block on it because it just was a super tough, awesome 4,500 pounder. It now lives in the back. I upgraded to a 6,000 in the front, thinking, okay, if 4,500 is good, 6 is going to be better. But really, is it? All right. This is going to be a review, or at least my impression, of the Viper Elite EX 6000 by Moro Alliance. Well, you see these on eBay, and they're quite a bit more expensive than the others, so you naturally think more expensive means more better. Not sure that's the case, especially when a lot of the parts are shared from really brand to brand. Anybody can buy a label and stick it on a piece of equipment and sell it as their own. I don't know what their engineering department is all about. Maybe this is all their own. But in either case, I spent the extra bucks for this thing. Now, if you go to Micro Pig 2.5, is when I put this thing on. And I mentioned in that video 1 year ago that it didn't sound right. It sounded really gritty. But you know what? People that have winches on their vehicle, especially if you've got a good off-road vehicle, how often are you really using that winch? It could literally sit on there for a year before you even know if it was good or if it was bad. Well, it looks good and it spins, so it must be fine, right? Well, I had one time when I got this thing stuck, and there's a video also on my channel here that shows it, but I had tire boards under the front tires, I had a snatch block, and I had this winch. And I'm going to tell you, that mud was not even that deep, not to the point to where, you know, I was bulldozing mud up underneath the front of the vehicle and dead pulling. I was riding up tire boards, and even with a snatch block, this thing could barely pull the vehicle up it. Well, I've done a direct comparison in the same spot on a different occasion, and my other 4,500 pounder worked just fine without a snatch block and without tire boards. So I took it apart. I popped the motor end off of this thing just to find that all of the magnets, save for one, that's 3 out of 4 magnets, were disbonded from the body itself and all stuck together on one side of it. Well, anybody that knows how a field and armature setup works, those magnets need to be isolated from each other to separate the poles and not all stuck together in one clump in a corner. So I contact Moro Alliance. Now, to their credit, they had absolutely no problem. They said, well, you're about a couple of weeks away from being out of warranty, and this is a warranty thing, so we'll take care of you. Okay, well, sounds great, man. They said I could box it up, send it to them, and they would, fix it and send it back. I probably should have done that, but I've had winches apart 100 different times, and I said, hey, if you just send me the motor assembly, I'm sure that's going to be just fine. I can put the motor assembly on. It's only held on by 3 little bolts. It's fully self-contained. It's got 2 leads on it, 2 studs. There's nothing to it. Anybody with an ounce of mechanical ability can put the motor on. So I did. Stuck the motor on, came just like they promised, and there it is. Well, I pushed the button, and the gentleman said, hey, just let us know if you have any problems, but you've only got another week or 2 to do that. Okay, sounds great. Again, very thankful. Great customer service. But back to my initial comment, how often do you actually use the winch? What should I have done? Should I have taken it and slung the lead up over a tree branch on an oak and lift the nose up off the ground and say, yeah, it's pulling hard enough? No, it made the same gritty noise, and it kind of had the same slow characteristic. But maybe that's the gear reduction of this thing. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's fine now. I let it be. I let my warranty expire. Well, I just went out a couple of days ago to have a little bit of fun with the kids, and lo and behold, we got it stuck. We were setting inside of some clay because I took the bigger tires off, and I had my little street tires on, and we drove down this trail. It was soft, and it got stuck. Having 4-wheel drive doesn't mean you're just going to go through everything. So we spool it out, pull this guy out of there. It starts to make the pull, I'd say the first 10 or 15 seconds, and then it just stops, like it maxed out capacity. And it did not lose voltage. The solenoids underneath the hood, the actuation boxes, no, they were not working. The winch was maxed out in capacity with barely any pressure on it. Well, fortunately, somebody came along and they pulled me out, so I came home to do a little bit of real experimenting and find out what the heck's going on with it. So I checked all the electrical connections as usual. It's just standard stuff. I put the multimeter on to make sure that whether you're hitting the remote for forward or reverse, you're getting your full voltage as shown on the battery through the lead that's appropriate based on the pull, this one or that one, on the winch itself. There was no electrical issue, except I could hold on to the lead and push the button with the remote with my hand, and I could pull on it hard enough to slow down the winch's pulling power. I could hear it bog down just with my 205-pound self pulling on it. That's already a problem. After, probably 10 seconds of winch time, maybe 15 seconds, the motor on it is hot to the touch. And I'm like, well, I never noticed that on any of my other winches, so I tested it on my 4,500 pounder in the back chute. That thing's stone cold because it's not drawing anything when you're not pulling. You're just spooling in your winch line, not hooked up to anything, and it's still getting hot. So there is an issue with it. So I tried something else too. I took the leads completely off of it so that this winch is fully isolated from the electrical system of the car. And I put 12 volts onto the winch leads, because you can basically just take the 12 volts and switch it, positive, negative, and it just changes the direction that it turns. So I went ahead and hit that, just a little bump to see that it was moving the right direction. And then I noticed something. I could take just the hot lead, the hot side of the cables from the power supply, and without putting a ground on it, I could touch it to one of those terminals, and it would actually make the drum move. Now, granted, just for a little bit, but it would. Somehow, it seems like this motor is finding its way to ground all the way back to the welded mounting plate. I don't know. I haven't unbolted it, but there is something really wrong with this. And I can't in good conscience say it's a good winch anymore. I just can't. So basically, this is going to be my impression. I don't think it was strong. I think it was not good, probably from the day I bought it. I think that whatever is up with this particular piece is a model characteristic. It's just what I believe, because if they can send me a new motor, and the motor is completely isolated from the gear drive system, from the planetaries, fully isolated from the drum, it stands alone, and it is getting hot with just a matter of a couple of seconds of spinning. That's an issue. I've even seen it to where after just pushing the button for a good, I don't know, 15, 16 seconds, I could see steam, because it was drizzling rain, steam coming off the edge of the winch motor. That's how hot it was getting. So bottom line is, I'm not touching it anymore. I'm not using this thing. It's going to come off of here. So this is also going to be my call out to Moro Alliance about this. And I would really like to be contacted, and I would like to see this thing completely replaced. They have since changed and upgraded their flagship winch. It doesn't even look like this anymore. It looks like something entirely different. I don't know that they would have gone through all that just for aesthetics, or maybe they know there's an issue with this particular winch. But in either case, I will be more than happy to make another version of this video and shout out their praises more if they will replace this piece of crap, because I really just find it disheartening to spend triple the price and yet have a 4,500 pound winch outperform it in every single way. So in the comment section down below, if you want to know what that is down there, I'll be happy to tell you. But that is about the best little winch that I've ever used that is that small. Thank you all for joining. Tommy Post. Keep up the good fight. See you on the next one.